Welcome to the Student Garden Thought Leaders series. Today I'm joined by Wendy Bonicci. Welcome, Wendy.
Thanks so much, George. Lovely to be here.
This is a very special and exciting episode for us. Obviously, Wendy and I have known each other for a long time. Wendy's been a huge part of the social garden / student garden journey. We've learnt a ton of stuff from you, and you've been an awesome supporter for us along the journey. So I'm very excited to have a chat with you today, I should say.
Thank you. That's great.
Maybe before we kind of kick into the questions, if you want to just provide a bit of background on all of the wonderful things you've kind of done within the education space and kind of, I guess, the role you kind of play in the ecosystem today.
Oh, thank you. I've had a wonderful career over the last 30 years, and it began through working in the people and culture space. And so through that, got to learn a lot around the education space or training and development space, but with particular focus in the vocational training. And, I had some experience with developing an enterprise-based registered training organisation, which was fantastic to learn how we could make that work and how we could actually ensure that our employees at the time were getting, fantastic training and development, but they were also too getting a qualification that they could leverage into other roles down the track. So I guess that set the stage for me then learning about the vocational training sector space, and then went on to, with some others, set up our own registered training organisation, which we grew to be quite large in Victoria. And, some fantastic learnings out of that journey, particularly from a perspective of what were some of the key success factors. But then also, too, as we grew, we sold into a public listing vocation, which then collapsed a couple of years later. And, through that process, an incredible set of learnings. And unfortunately, we'd made some very poor decisions, but also too equally, we'd made some very good decisions. So got to see, from a student perspective, what worked and clearly what didn't work, as well as really understand, the opportunities in that space and in that sector. And from there, post that time, I've been involved in the early stage business ecosystem, particularly supporting female founders, and have found myself working with a number of different organisations, including Social Garden, really supporting how they think strategically, how they are looking to grow their businesses, and what are some of the things that they should consider when they're building their strategies.
Yeah, and I know from talking with you and working on our strategy, so much of the time is just focusing on where there's tailwinds kind of within the broader ecosystem, and then overlaying that across kind of an education context, obviously, and seeing how those two fit together. What's happening here locally versus abroad? Can we take learnings from the US or Europe or Asia to kind of implement new ideas kind of into the Australian market? In terms of, a few businesses kind of come to mind in terms of, Compass was kind of formed in New Zealand, but they're based in Australia now. I think of Year 13, a few other kind of, amazing companies kind of going hard in the edtech space. How do you think kind of Australia is sort of perform, obviously there's an opportunity here domestically, but also globally. How's Australia performing on kind of more of a global stage when it comes to developing these businesses and ideas? And do you think there's kind of an increasing amount of opportunity, and also just you're seeing it in terms of execution of companies kind of starting out here in Australia and then expanding over to the US?
Look, definitely. I think that the edtech space is definitely an area that has been expanding. There's a lot more interest in that in the space and sector, and I think people do see the opportunity because I think historically Australia has such a wonderful and has had in the past a really well-developed education system.
Yeah.
So I think that can be leveraged. And then when you have that education system combined with technology, combined with artificial intelligence and the growth of that, I think definitely there's opportunity. And we're seeing that. We're seeing lots of companies that are beginning here in Australia that are being grown. And the other interesting trend that we're seeing, which I think is wonderful, is that international venture capital companies are looking to Australia and are coming to Australia to look for early stage businesses in that education space.
You're someone who's, been a massive inspiration for myself and Mike. You've always seemed to have a serious amount of energy and ideas. I'd love to hear where does inspiration come from for you, and where do you kind of draw that energy from?
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Great question. I think that for me, I read heavily.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like to make sure that I'm getting insights from a number of different range of sources. So I do dedicate quite a bit of time to reading. I'm also, I've got wonderful mentors as well, who I've been really lucky to have great conversations with. I guess I'm part of the early stage ecosystem.
Yep.
So, and that's been such a privilege, because as I get to view different businesses, I get so excited by the innovation that is being developed in this country and in this state. It just blows me away. So I always feel really, really excited, and I guess probably optimistic, therefore, particularly with young people and how they're thinking about the world, how they think about, different ideas and how that's being forged ahead. So, yeah, that's what gives me energy. And working with, fantastic people like you and Mike, who are deeply passionate about what you're doing, and absolutely not just passionate, but really willing to engage and learn from others. And I think that's what gives me energy.
Awesome. Love it. You mentioned, obviously, you've got an interest in empowering female founders in particular. What does that kind of look like in the context of our ecosystem at the moment? How are we as a society, whether it's business community or whatever, how are we making more progress? What are the things we can kind of be doing to kind of make sure we have more of these kind of amazing female founders kind of coming through the ecosystem?
It's a really good question. And I think that, there's been a lot of conversation and review around the amount of money that's invested in female founders. And so, for me personally, I want to make sure that at least 50% of money that I'm investing in this space is with female founders. So that's really important for me, because we know that they're underinvested in. And yet we've also seen how female founders can build fabulous businesses and can often build them really successfully.
Totally.
I mean, there's just so much data around it.
Yeah.
But so for me, I will actively be part of a couple of angel groups. I work and support one-on-one with a couple of female founders, which I really enjoyed doing. So it's. I also speak to other people in the communities that I know who are investing. If I see or hear about a really good female investor and I think that the business is worthy of investment, then I'll suggest which angel groups that they can go to, or which VCs would be look at their business favourably.
Awesome. Last question for you. You're involved in a fantastic organisation called Skyline.
Oh, yeah.
Would love for you to talk about our listeners. Tell us what Skyline is, because I think the work that they're doing is just like amazing. And how do we kind of get this organisation cranking harder? How can people kind of be actively helping Skyline?
Oh, thanks. Look, Skyline is a not-for-profit organisation that was set up over 10 years ago, and with a view to really support those students doing their VCE, so in years 11 and 12, who had been in challenging environments, typically from environments where, you know, they're disadvantaged financially or socially, but they're bright, really, really bright. So Skyline has provided wraparound support to those students to really support them moving through their VC and then supporting with their applications into universities. And they've been super successful in doing that and really nurturing talented young people, and predominantly these people have been from migrant backgrounds as well. Skyline does that in Victoria, and, you know, when I first got to know Skyline, I think their student numbers were probably maybe 15 or 20 students. And so for me it was, how can we try and get those student numbers to grow? And their program that they provide is just brilliant. And they work with I think, 15 to 20 schools now, where those schools are nominating students who need this type of support. And they're just such bright and smart and, you know, really passionate people. So wonderfully, though, over the last couple of years, they've been looking at, well, how can they drive their program so that it can, you know, reach more students. So they've developed a program called Hatch, which is really supporting hacks around SACs and exam preparation, etc., that can be, you know, many students can access. So they've been working on that. But they're a wonderful organisation. The outcomes have been just extraordinary, where, you know, over 95% of students get into the universities of their choice. They're, you know, getting exceptional results in their VCE. So it's and we know that the schools are often underfunded. So it's great to see these types of outcomes.
And there are other, like, in terms of, because I think the work that they do is, like, incredible. And like, I've met many of the students, and to be able to kind of create these opportunities for them is a pretty amazing thing, to be able to have the opportunity to even do that. For other businesses, like, how can they kind of be involved in Skyline? Is it a case of just kind of reaching out and talking to the team? Or you mentioned the Hatch program. Is it about trying to get Hatch into more schools, or like, what's for people out there who are listening to this, and kind of, is it volunteering? Like, what are the ways that people can actually kind of, I guess, help kind of push that movement forward?
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of different things that people can do. Firstly would be to go onto the website, have a look at Skyline Education, understand the support that's being provided, think about how they might be able to donate to Skyline, and because that they are supporting these students from disadvantaged backgrounds. I think that, you know, if they're a larger employer and they've got some, potential job vacancies, we're always looking for, particularly at alumni level that are at university, trying to help find them jobs. So that's a wonderful way to also support Skyline. But yeah, it's definitely funding related.
Cool.
They're really lucky. They've got some wonderful support via organisations like Mecca, who've got their Mecca Empower project, which I've been, lucky enough to be involved with. And so, they're supporting the organisation and helping them grow their Hatch program and really supporting female students within the Skyline program as well.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Wendy. It's been wonderful chatting with you. For anyone listening who wants to kind of reach out and have a conversation with you, is kind of LinkedIn the best way?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best one.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, George.